In this tutorial video, I want to show you how you can make your own gems with resin and also how to make your own molds for them. So this is the gem for Xayah, that's right here. And I actually made the mold with some silicone and then I casted it with resin and I also colored it with some makeup pigments. And I did the same for the gems on these, gloves. Through the time, they actually changed color a little bit. They were brighter when I just casted them, but you never know it when you use a pigment for resin, if the color will stay the same over time. So that's always something to be wary of when it needs to be very accurate. So it can change. But of course there are also specially dedicated resin pigments. And if you use them with a certain resin, the color should stay. So if you want to see how you can make cool gems like these, then be sure to keep watching this video that we are going to start right now. Before I can make the mold for the gem, I first need to make the shape. And for this I'm using the high density EVA foam from cosplayshop.be. And I also use some contact glue from Mink, Duracol. I apply the contact glue onto the foam pieces in a very thin layer. With a scrap piece of foam, I spread it out so it's really thin. This will make the glue seams look neater in the end. When the glue is dry and not wet anymore, I can put the pieces together to glue it into the shape that I want. Because I put all the foam pieces at an angle, it will now automatically turn into a pyramid shape when I glue the pieces together. I align the foam pieces very carefully because this glue is super strong and it needs to be super neat. And then I apply a few layers of PVA primer to make the surface super smooth. This is really important because the surface of the master that I will make the mold of will actually determine how smooth the mold will be, and also the casts. Then I take my silicone, which is a 2-part liquid silicone. It comes in a part A and a part B that you have to mix together in equal parts. It can be a different ratio if you use a different brand of silicone, but this is just 1:1, so it's really easy. I actually eyeball it a little bit, but of course you can also use a scale. Then I mix it together thoroughly so it's one color. That part is really important because otherwise the silicone won't cure well and you will still get some wet parts in it. And you don't want that. So stir very well. Don't be lazy on this part. Then I actually glued my master shape onto a piece of cardboard and I built a container around it out of scrap pieces of foam that will hold the silicone while it cures. And now I just pour the silicone into this until it fully covers my masterpiece. It's very important that I glued all the pieces of the walls very well because the silicone is very liquid and it doesn't need to come out, so it really needs to be contained into this contraption. And there it is, only needs a little bit more. For the little diamond shaped gems, I did something similar. I glued a piece of cardboard tube onto another piece of cardboard. And then I put some diamond shapes that I made earlier inside. Then I poured some liquid silicone over it until it fully covers the diamonds. This particular brand of silicone needs about half an hour to cure, and then I can free it from its contraption and also take out the masters. In this case, this soft foam kept sticking a little bit to the silicone, but that's not really such a big deal. Here you can also see how smooth the inside of the mold is, and that's because we added those layers of primer onto the foam shape. So that's really important. We're left with this beautiful mold, and we didn't use too much silicone because, as you can see, the pyramid shape of the contraption, I don't know a better word for this, was very good for saving some material. And some of the foam still stuck to it, but that doesn't matter. Now let's free the mold for the diamond shapes. So I just tear the pieces apart, and here we have the mold. Then I just push it out with a little bit of force. And I take the master shapes out of it to reveal the finished mold for the gems. And there it is, our silicone mold for the diamond shapes. It's a flexible mold and I can use it as many times as I want. And this one, of course, too. And now we can start with the resin. Of course, I'm wearing gloves to protect my hands and also respiratory protection, and I open the windows. This is the resin that I use, it's from Vos Chemie. And here I put some elastics on the mold so the shape will be a little bit more like a star. I'm using a plastic cup that I already used for resin before. It has some dried up resin inside, so that's not really a problem. And then I pour the resin inside the cup. And I also need to pour in some hardener later and then mix it together. Of course, if you want to do it perfectly, you can use a scale to measure both parts A and parts B, so you know that you have exactly enough hardener with the resin. But I just eyeball it because the ratio was not really strict. If you want to add color to the resin, you can of course use pigments that are especially meant for resin, but I want to try and use some eyeshadow powder. So I scraped some eyeshadow from a glittery eyeshadow, a blue one, and then I mixed that into the resin until I liked the color. This one was actually a very old eyeshadow that I still had, but the color is so pretty. Then I carefully poured the resin into my mold for the big diamond shape. I didn't fill it fully because I want two colors inside it, and the rest of the resin I just use in some other molds that I have to make more gems. Now for the second layer, after the resin was cured, I wanted a different color. So I added some pink purplish eyeshadow to my resin, and then I poured it over the blue cured resin. Like I already said in the beginning of this video, the color of my resin changed over time. So if I had used a color that was especially made for this brand of resin, then it would have stayed better in the course of time. But in this case I wanted to try it with the eyeshadow color, and it's always fun to experiment a little bit. Now the resin has to cure, and it takes 1 day up to multiple days depending on how cured you want it, and then it's time to take it out of the mold. First remove the elastics, and now I can take the gem out of the mold. It comes off really easily, as you see, and I just put it on a silicone mat because I don't want to touch it now with my bare hands, because the resin is still a little bit sticky and I don't want that to get on my fingers. And this is how it looks. It has some air bubbles, but it kinda adds to the effect, I think. And a nice gradient color. And here I added some warbler to it, and also some velcro on the back, so I could add it to my costume. This is how I added the velcro to the warbler. I just took a leather needle and sewed it on to some piece of meshed warbler and then added that to the back of the gem. And then it was finished, ready for my Starguardian Xayah. They look so magical with the costume. I love how these gems turned out, and I can still use the molds for other gems. And now you know how you can make cool gems like these ones and also make your own molds for them with silicone. I hope that was helpful, so you can use it for your own projects and make really awesome gems in the most beautiful colors. So thank you very much for watching, And be sure to watch my other Xayah videos that I will link in the description below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!